Hey everybody! Today I'm going to be doing my February wrap-up. The first book that I have here is Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson, and I read this one for the Year of Cosmere buddy reading group on Goodreads and here on YouTube. I did a review on this, I'll link it below, so I'm not going to go too much into it. Definitely a great book to get you into fantasy if you're thinking about jumping into that genre but don't know where to start. I highly recommend this. The next book that I have here is The Souls of Black Folk by W.E.B. Du Bois, and this is a collection of essays. I really enjoy this. I highly recommend this to anybody who wants to know about a place in history that was not taught in school. In these essays, he's presenting this idea that there is a veil dividing black men and white men even after the black slaves have been freed. And I say freed because this is not the sort of freedom that they had in mind. It was so difficult to be a freed slave, not only because you were obviously still not respected, but it was so hard to improve, to, buy property, to work. It was almost like they were only free on paper, but not in society's point of view. The veil is something that he references a lot. This veil is an invisible barrier between freed black men and women and opportunity. There's so much information, so much insight into what it was like at that time and how difficult it was, how even though you were free, your fight was just beginning. Something else that I got out of this collection was how it is still relevant today, how the mindset that was prevalent back in 1903 is still something that would be relevant today. And that's why this type of history is so important to me, because it seems that we have not really progressed as much as we think we have. I read the Essential Neruda, and this was a bilingual edition, so you would have one poem in English on one side, one poem in Spanish on the other. I am so happy that I was able to read his poems in this way. I really enjoyed this edition. It had a lot of his more popular poems as well as some more obscure poems that I've never heard of. I want to read more poetry, so if you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments below. I am not too familiar with the genre. I only know of poets that were introduced to me in school. I've read some of Bukowski's poems, Neruda obviously, and I really want to read John Keats, but I don't really know any other important poets or anything like that. So if you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments below, because I do want to explore this genre a little bit more. I also read The Martian by Weir. This was a buddy read with Bree, and we really love this. I'm really eager to see how she's going to talk about it in her wrap-up, but for me, this is one of the books that it really lived up to the hype for me. I cannot wait to see this on the big screen. I think it comes out in November, and Matt Damon will be playing the lead, Mark Watney, and I'm so excited for that. From the beginning, you care about Mark Watney. You want him to succeed. You want him to survive. And you're just sitting there hoping that everything works out. There were a lot of moments where I was at the edge of my seat, nervous, not knowing how it was going to end, and it really was a ride. I didn't mind the sciencey bits. I actually thought that it was very fitting. Mark Watney is an astronaut, he's a botanist, he is a scientist really deep down, so since we're looking at things from his point of view, it only makes sense that he's going to be deconstructing things in a scientific way. He's going to be looking at chemistry, mechanics. How is he going to make it on his own? Even if you don't like science, I still recommend this. You can just gloss over the sciencey bits and still get a good feel for what's going on. It's not like you're going to be completely lost. So I really recommend it. Definitely lived up to the hype, and it's also a great book to read as a buddy read. It was stressful, it was funny, it was very interesting, and I can't wait, like I said, to see it on screen. So definitely worth picking up. If you haven't picked it up yet, if you've been kind of on the fence about it, I urge you to just pick it up or check it out at the library. It is worth it, believe me. I also read Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson. This book really surprised me. I thought it would deal more with Jackie growing up in the civil rights movement and how that might have affected her. She talks about it a tiny bit, but that's not the focus of the story. Instead, she focuses on her childhood, her family life, how it was like to move from one state to another, and just growing up in, meeting your first friend, learning how to read, falling in love with writing, which she does and she talks about a lot. I think it's one of those books that, transcends age. Anybody can read it and take something from it. I read The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. This was a buddy read I did with Patty. I really enjoyed this. It was very different than any of the other classics I've read. I found Lord Henry to be absolutely infuriating and insufferable, but I understood why he was chosen and how he drove the plot along. I think Oscar Wilde was absolutely insane to publish this. I'm not surprised that he got such backlash for this story and all of the things that it talks about. He uses Lord Henry as kind of a vehicle to present all of these radical ideas about sin, morality, and mortality. And they were very, very different than what was expected back then. So I'm not surprised at the backlash that he got. But I also really appreciated that he really took it that far. I found the story very symbolic. I thought that Lord Henry and Basil were kind of like the angel and the devil on Dorian's shoulder. And of course, Dorian listens to Lord Henry because he is the loudest. He just does not shut up. So I totally understand why he chose Lord Henry, and it was very interesting to see his fall from grace. I'm glad that I finally got around to it, and I can see why it's a favorite for a lot of people. I also started reading Purple Hibiscus by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I'm about halfway through, and I find myself taking a lot of breaks from this book. It has a very oppressive tone. I don't know how Adichie does it, but characters jump from the page, and unfortunately one of the characters here is someone I absolutely despise. So I have to take kind of breaks from this person. I'm really enjoying it so far though. Again, Adichie's writing is absolutely stunning, and I'm planning to finish this for next month. I'll talk about this more in my TBR video, which should be up next. So those are all of the books that I read this month. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought about them. I'd love to discuss them in the comments with you. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in my next video.